Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. We are live here to review the weekend's hurling action. We're going to be looking back at the ladies' football and Camogie action a little bit as well as obviously some breaking news. Mickey Harte leaving Derry. We might touch on that a little bit later on as well. But we're going to obviously be focusing on the hurling action. And I suppose, Matthew, quiet enough weekend. Not much really happened. Clare beat Kilkenny and Cork. Little old Cork beat Limerick. The 5 in a row is over. I know you were out last night with Dan Casey and everything else, and the lads out celebrating. I'd say the head might be sore today, but overall, that's some win for Cork. How just sum up how it feels waking up as a Cork fan this morning.
To be honest, Aaron, and I was talking to Dan about this as well, it almost feels like a dream that we've won the game. It was almost like you were waking up this morning, going into the GA order this morning and thinking, did that actually just happen? Did we beat the drive for 5 chasers? And thanks for having me on again. It's just a whirlwind, I suppose. Getting that win yesterday, the place literally shook for moments in the game, and it was just a pleasure to be there. Obviously, the hill looked like some crack. I was in the upper Cusack with Seamus Brady, a good friend as well, and we absolutely enjoyed the experience. It was just an incredible game of hurling, and I don't think a semi-final like that would be top because of the atmosphere there, the game itself, and it was just the significance of it towards the end. The Cork celebrating, the polar opposites, Cork players celebrating, the Limerick players just standing on the pitch, and it was almost like coming close to an end of an era, which is, I know I'm a Cork fan and all that, but that was pretty sad as well to see that from a neutral point of view, because this Limerick team have produced some brilliant moments over the last few years, and to see them look distraught at the final whistle, it was upsetting for many neutral fans. But this was Cork's day, and I think Seamus Brady mentioned this on GAR this morning as well. Limerick didn't lose the game; Cork won it. Cork won this game, and they deserve all the plaudits from getting this performance into them. But then again, Aaron, it would mean nothing, this performance, if we don't beat Clare the next day, and it's almost like. Kid Cuddy. It was a whirlwind, I suppose, the celebrations. Not just the night out, I suppose, or around Dublin City. It was just the final whistle. It was absolutely incredible. I don't think I could literally speak afterwards. It didn't get much sleep either last night, being on a long night out, and it was just an incredible night. But definitely want to savor. I think the best 2 weekends I've ever had in Croke Park were 2 All-Ireland semi-finals, coincidentally enough. The Cork and Dublin game in 2010 in the football, and now yesterday. So I think it was just incredible. It was an incredible feeling, and glad to be a Cork fan right now. But Clare, obviously, brilliant result for them against Kilkenny on Saturday, even though it wasn't a great game in terms of spectacle, in terms of the style of play from both sides as well. But looking forward to getting into that as well, and possibly into the All-Ireland final as well. It should be a very interesting All-Ireland final. Clare edging to try and bridge an 11-year gap. Cork 19. Who's going to do it? We'll have to see.
Yeah, it has the makings of 2013 all over again. And it is kind of incredible. The last time Cork were in an All-Ireland final was 2013. Last time Clare were in an All-Ireland final was 2013 as well. So the odds of both of those getting through to a final and both playing each other as well. It almost feels I never kind of believe in the whole written in the stars kind of thing, but you just look at Patrick Horgan maybe coming to the end of his time, getting his 700 point, obviously getting the accolade on Croke Park as well. And you think you were actually, I was only thinking of this earlier today, you were about a minute or two away from being knocked out of the championship in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and you obviously get the late penalty and turn it around. If you do go on to win it, and look, I'm sure Clare will obviously have a lot to say about it, and we'll get on to that. If you do go on to win it, it might go down as one of the best All-Ireland wins in recent memory anyway. It would have to be.
Oh, definitely. So I think you might be forgetting one final, Aaron, Cork and Limerick. That was a bit of a bad day from a Cork point of view. And to be honest, Aaron, I'm glad you forgot it, because I'm trying to erase that final from my memory over the last few seasons. But it's going to be a cracking final, obviously. And the thing is, funnily enough, Cork are going in as favourites according to the bookies. But then again, and we were discussing on the GR as well, Clare have beaten Cork in the last few meetings. Like, it's a long time since Cork beat Clare in League or Championship. Clare have won a trophy this year at the league title. And as well as that, Clare did beat us in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Yes, Sean O'Donoghue got a red card, and you could argue that swung the game in Clare's favour. But Clare still beat us, and there's still an onus of pressure for these Cork players to go out on the field in 2 weeks' time. But at the same time, Pat Ryan is a guy that will grind these players for training sessions. He knew that the Dublin and Offaly game, that wouldn't have been good enough performances to beat Limerick. He got the players to produce a good performance in this one. And yeah, the players are definitely learning off him. Like, Pat Ryan, he's an incredible coach, he's an incredible tactician, an incredible people person as well, to get these players dried up and ready for road. But yeah, it was just a brilliant outing in the semi-final yesterday. But Cork-Clare should be some atmosphere in a few weeks' time, and there could be a situation, actually, Aaron, I don't think this has ever happened before, that the hurling All-Ireland final could be a sellout and the football might not be. So I don't think we've ever seen that in the Gaelic Games history. So it should be interesting to see the attendances in the next few weeks too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I suppose it will all depend on obviously who gets to the finals and everything else in football. But yeah, definitely could happen. And look, there is no better place to start. Obviously, Cork won 28, Limerick 29 points. I suppose firstly, like the atmosphere in Croke Park sounded incredible. Like, even like we were speaking off air and we were saying, like, I don't live too far from Croke Park. It's about a 20-minute, half an hour walk. But usually, sometimes if it's fully packed out, I mute the TV, you can actually hear some of the roars and some of the sounds. And I actually muted the TV when the national anthem was being played, because I knew obviously there was going to be a roar at the end of the national anthem, and I got to hear some of the atmosphere from there. But yeah, like the atmosphere just looked incredible. And yeah, like, I mean, you probably won't get a better atmosphere at a hurling game, arguably in a football game, like probably the best atmosphere of the decade, maybe.
Possibly so. And even Seamus was at the game at Páirc Uí Chaoimh, the game that Cork won down there with Hoggy scoring into the Blackrock end. And he was saying when that event happened, the place in Cork actually shook. And I think there was a moment in the game yesterday where the place literally did shake. I think it was Garrett Hagerty getting the shot saved from Pat Collins, Aaron Gallant following it up, Owen Downey, Rob Downey coming into the rescue to keep that ball out of the net, Sean O'Donoghue there as well. And then the ball goes out to Decky Dalton and the ball goes over the bar and the place goes wild. Like that was an incredible score in its own right, but just the atmosphere to add to that as well. It was an incredible game, and even the flares on the hill. I know there is probably an issue with the flares in terms of stewarding and all that, but like, they do add to the atmosphere. You can't deny that. Like, the colour, the red, the green, all over the ground. Like, it was absolutely brilliant to see. And just the final whistle celebrations to the Cork fans as well. And even, like, I know Cork would have been putting their hands into their teeth and gritting it, obviously, towards the end of the game. But even to see Limerick points go over from Shane O'Brien, from Adam English, I think it was, from Aaron Gallant to keep them plugging away. It was almost like the atmosphere ramped up a notch then after that. And like, it was just an incredible game, the quality-wise, atmosphere, and yeah, it was just a pleasure to be there, obviously. But from a Cork point of view, it was an absolutely incredible game. Like, Hoggy didn't have his best game, but there were other players to step up. Brian Hayes, superb performance from him. And to be fair, there has been question marks about Brian Hayes this year and last year. Is he more of a footballer than a hurler? Would he be suited to John Cleary's system rather than Pat Ryan's? But he's proved this year he's definitely staked his claim into that starting 15. The goal he took was absolutely superb. And to be fair, Aaron, that goal, the second goal, should have stood. I don't know. Look, it doesn't matter in hindsight now, but to me, it didn't look like a throw ball. And maybe he biased and all that. But to be honest, James beside me, he thought it wasn't a throw ball either. And then the third chance as well, where he flicked it over the bar. Brian Hayes could have got a hat-trick in that first half, and he was running rings around that Limerick defence. Shane Barrett was superb, obviously, at his running game. Alan Connolly didn't have his best game in the Cork shirt, but was brilliant as well. Decky Dalton, like, his long-range shooting was just superb, and even looking at the defence as well. And this is where I give credit to Pat Ryan with the matchup. So I discussed this on my podcast during the week. If Mark Coleman goes on Garrett Hagerty, we could be in for a tough day in Croke Park. But what Pat Ryan did, he put Kieran Joyce on Garrett Hagerty. he pushed Mark Coleman on the other side. To be fair, Mark Coleman had a good game marking Tom Morrissey. And then you had Tim O'Mahony in the middle, and he did a superb job alongside Darragh Fitzgibbon as well. So the rejigging and all that from Pat Ryan and the management team deserves a lot of credit, to be fair to them. And what more can I say about the Downey brothers? They know one and Rob from Glen Rovers. Absolutely superb down the spine of that team. Niall O'Leary did his job as well. Sean O'Donoghue was in Aaron Gallan's face all day. And while Aaron Gallan had a very good performance himself, and I think Seamus described him as nearly the panto villain in many ways, that the whole of the Limerick team weren't performing well. Cork were performing well. And then Gallan was saying, look, hold up, lads. We are not going in for the shock here. He scored 6 points from play yesterday, which was actually... he scored 2-2 from play coming into the game, and we were questioning during the week, is Aaron Gallan up to it? But to be fair to him, he was brilliant yesterday, and Sean O'Donoghue did a good job on him, but that wasn't going to stop him performing well. But yeah, it wasn't to be Limerick's day, it was Cork's day. But what I will say about it from a Limerick point of view, because I think we will talk about Cork once we get to the final and things like that. From a Limerick point of view, they've been great champions, and they proved it right until the very end. Like, until the end of that game, like, Cork fans were just nervous when the ball went in for Dermot Burns, what was going to happen towards the end of it. Pat Collins catches it, puts it out to Shane Kingston. Shane Kingston plays it away, final whistle goes, and pandemonium after that. And yeah, but Limerick, the thing was, they kept fighting, even without Tom Morrissey went off. I think Will O'Donoghue went off as well. There was a few key players on that team that went off that would usually go off in that team, but the young guns stepped in and did an absolute brilliant job. And it was actually nice to see the Limerick players applaud the fans as well, or just to acknowledge the fans as well towards the end of it, because they've been on such a journey themselves to get to this stage, to try to be in a touching distance of the Drive for Five. Like, only a select few teams have done it. Limerick have done it as well. They should be very proud of their efforts, and they should have been proud of their efforts yesterday. And as I said before, Limerick didn't lose the game. Cork won it. Cork were absolutely dogging in this game. They deserved to win it, and they were absolutely superb. And before I cross over to you, Aaron, another player I wanted to mention, who's got a bit of a flacking towards the start of the championship, Pat Collins and nets. Like, the guy was absolutely superb. The shot he saved for Aaron Gallan, I think somebody, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but somebody mentioned on Twitter how much had Pat Collins been paid for this, to dive in front of a shot that may put him in danger from an Aaron Gallan point of view. Like, that was a rasper of a shot. And even the Hagerty save in the second half, just superb reflexes, and his puck outs maybe a bit iffy in the first half. They were going down Kyle Hayes' and Dermot Burns' throat, but he definitely changed it up a bit in the second half. Like, the braveness to go short, in the dying embers of the game, and with 10 minutes left to go on the clock, when Limerick were closing in our coattails, like, that takes a lot of guts to do that, in fairness to him. And Pat Collins deserves a lot of credit for that, as do the whole team. And that was a brilliant performance by Cork, and yeah, in the final now.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and Shawnee says here, I was sure when Patrick Horgan missed that goal chance at the end, I thought it was it for Cork. Great to see as well, seeing Cork playing traditional end-to-end hurling. Yeah, like, that was the mad thing. For as much as Limerick missed chances, for as much as Limerick missed opportunities, there were certain moments that probably went their way. Like you mentioned, obviously, the second Brian Hayes goal. Like, I'd agree with you as well. Like, I don't think it should have been disallowed. I feel like the throw ball rule is such a grey area. It's like Limerick throw the ball all the time, and you know what I mean? And Aaron Gallan, like, to be fair, he did get penalised for a throw ball at the other end, but that was obviously off the ground. So it's just such a grey area. But like, you feel like those little breaks, they did happen for Limerick. Like, Cork did miss big chances as well. And obviously that chance at the end from Horgan when Nicky Quaid obviously saves it on the ground. And then obviously they have Shane O'Brien obviously is a massive opportunity, puts it wide. Aidan O'Connor misses an opportunity as well. So, like, for as good as Cork were, like, Limerick still possibly could have won it, which is the mad thing.
Exactly. So I was mentioning the GAR this morning, the shooting accuracy for Limerick, and it was 59%, which isn't terrible from any side, but for Limerick standards, that's very, very low, because it's usually about 70-80%. 14 wides as well didn't help their cause whatsoever. Like, a crazy stat actually for the weekend. Limerick had more shots than Cork, and Kilkenny had more shots than Clare in the semi-finals, and both sides ended up losing. So it probably shows the importance of converting your shots at the right time. And Limerick, to be fair to them, they were creating the chance to hit 49 shots and still lose the game is incredible in its own right. But like that was like Limerick were still creating the chances, and you have to give them credit for that. And even the turnovers, it was very, very even with Cork. It was literally a puck of a ball between the two sides. Like, let's play devil's advocate from a Cork point of view for a bit. Like, if that ball from Dermot Burns drops into Argalad's hand or into the back of the net directly, we'll be sitting down here talking about a different story here. So Limerick were inches away from getting that comeback they needed. But there were a few missed opportunities that I was very surprised about, especially in the second half. The one that you mentioned about Shane O'Brien, I honestly thought that was a point and noted it down. I genuinely believe that was over the bar, but it ended up going wide. I think Colin O'Neill missed a chance as well when he was going through on goal. It was very indecisive of what he was going to do. Either play it wide or play it into the back of the net or go over the bar. Ended up doing neither. There was this chance in the first half from Garrett Haggerty, which he normally never miss, and that was just un-Garrett Haggerty-like. Dermot Burns missed a free that he would usually do as well. So there were errors in the Limerick game as well, and they were keeping Cork in it because of them errors in many ways. And but still Cork deserve a lot of credit for putting pressure on that Limerick back. Like even Dermot Burns, and he didn't perform his utmost best at the Munster Championship and this game either. Like, he hit 7 shots, he converted only 3, which was really, really poor for his standards. Colin O'Neill, 3 out of 6, which isn't great. Tom Morrissey, yes, he would have been brought off in usual circumstances, but he hit only 2 shots out of 5. And to be honest, look at them stats. John Coyley was probably right to take him off. Look at those because they just weren't good enough on the day. Like, in a shooting standpoint, if it wasn't for Argalan from Limerick point of view, he'd 10 shots out of 12. Limerick were out of the game in many ways. So they had a lot to thank with Argalan in the team as well, and a few others in the team, Nicky Quaid as well. His puck outs were brilliant. I remember the first half, he hit a puck out pinpointed to Tom Morrissey and he put it over the bar. Like, that was Limerick in a nutshell. And Nicky Quaid deserves a lot of credit for the work that he did as well. Obviously, nothing you could do about the goal, but they were just beaten by a better team on the day. Cork were the better team. Yes, Limerick have been ahead of Cork undoubtedly over the last few seasons, but on the day, Cork were just sharper. They were much better than Limerick, and there was still only a hair's breadth between the two sides. So, like, it's going to be interesting to see where this Limerick side goes from here. Obviously, from a neutral point of view, you'd love Limerick to keep it on going because this team have achieved so much together, like Paul Connor, John Coyley, JP McManus. They've achieved so much as a collective group, and it's just a shame if they went off the ball a small bit. But I'm sure with Shane O'Brien there, with Adam English, with Donegal Dalek, with Colin Coughlin, there are some young players to come through the ranks. But even John Coyley's comments at the end of the game were a bit strange. He was saying that the older players might be the last of seeing them. He probably means Graham Mulcahy probably will go, Declan Hannon probably, Cian Lynch, I don't know, will he take a year out because he wasn't at his pop this season. Maybe he could take a rest. Nicky Quaid probably not. I know he's been around the block for a few years, but he is a goalkeeper. Goalkeepers usually stay around for a long time. There could be a few that maybe want to go travelling, maybe want to go to the States, maybe want to go to Australia after such a tiresome last few years in many ways for the Limerick team, because to get to 4 in a row was absolutely brilliant. But I think Seamus, and give credit to Seamus Brady on this, made a very good point. Look, you look at Kilkenny hurlers in 2009 or 2010 when they lost the chance for the drive for 5. They never really got close to that again. The Kerry team in the 80s in football never got really close to that again. I know Dublin achieved it the 5 in a row with the footballers, but once they lost to Mayo in 2021, they only won 1 All-Ireland after that against Kerry, and that was more like a last hurrah. So it's a question mark. Where does this Limerick team go next? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all goes next season. But I honestly wish all the best for them because they are a brilliant group of players, and hopefully they will be back up achieving the great things that they have achieved over the last few years sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, all right, with Limerick, no doubt about that. And as you said, like with John Coyley, you could tell he was hurt in his post-match interview. Like, they fully believed they were going to win. Limerick have always found a way in these games. They always somehow pull a rabbit out of a hat, and they almost nearly did. Went down literally to the last puck of a ball, obviously with that floated ball that was sent in from Dermot Burns and everything else. Like, is it the end of an era for Limerick? It's hard to know. Like, when Kilkenny lost to Tipperary in 2010, they came roaring back and won a couple of All-Irelands. That way, like, up until obviously 2015, the most recent one. So I don't know. I still think the age profile of the likes of Hegarty, the likes of Kyle Hayes, the likes of Aaron Gillan, I still think they're more than capable of coming back and winning it next year. And even when you look at the younger players as well, Aidan O'Connor, and even both Adam English and Shane O'Brien, like, yeah, Shane O'Brien missed that big chance towards the end, scored 2 points. Adam English scored 2 points as well. Like, when those two lads came on, that was when Limerick started to turn the screw, because let's not forget they were 6 down at one stage, and obviously managed to pull it back to 2. Sean has an interesting comment here. He says, cheer Brennan to Dublin, Mickey Harte back to Loud with his tail between his legs. Yeah, we'll certainly get onto that a little bit later on. But I suppose before we mention that, before we even mention Limerick a little bit, I wanted to take it back to Cork, because you mentioned Pat Collins' hookouts, and we obviously mentioned it before the game and everything else. Like, I mean, what a performance! Like, what a year it's been from him. Like, obviously took a huge amount of slack. I think I remember following the Waterford defeat. Like, has there ever been a player that's rejuvenated a season, that's turned an All-Ireland Championship season around as much as him? I'm not too sure if there is.
I don't think there is, to be honest, Aaron, because when you look at the Munster Championship, his save percentage was 25%, which was very, very low for a goalkeeper. But to turn that around, and not just the Limerick game yesterday, and I said that this coming out of the ground as well, I've just realised that he's now kept 2 clean sheets in a row. Yes, the first game was against Dublin, and that's not really the same as Limerick, but that will do Pat Collins the world of confidence to keep clean sheets in those scenarios as well. And let's not forget, he kept a shot out near the end against Dublin, and he kept 2 raspers from Argalan and Garrett Hagerty out of the net as well. So he deserves a lot of praise, obviously. And he was getting flack at the start of the season because of the puck-out strategy against Clare and Waterford in particular. The goal he let in against Tipperary as well in the Munster Championship, and the puck-out strategy against Limerick in the first day in Páirc Uí Chaoimh wasn't the best. But he has proved all the doubters wrong by just knuckling down, and you have to give him a lot of credit. And you have to give credit as well to a few people to gain a bit of confidence for Pat Collins. Like, the defence as well deserve a lot of credit. Like, the likes of Owen Downey at full back has given Pat Collins a lot more confidence in the puck out as well, and he has the confidence that he has a full back ahead of him, that he's going to fight for his life. Sean O'Donoghue the same, Niall O'Leary the same, even Rob Downey at centre back is going to be the same. And Pat Ryan deserves a lot of praise as well to an extent, because when you think about it, you have Brian Saunderson on the bench for Middleton, who was very good in the club championship, to be fair to him, and has a very long puck of the ball and could definitely fit into that role in getting puck outs away. But Pat Ryan stuck to Pat Collins when nobody else probably would have. So he deserves a lot of credit for that, for keeping the belief in him despite the bad performances he was doing. But all the credit has to go to him for the way he's turned his season around and the way he's nearly an all-star form now. Like, you look at it from this standpoint, I honestly think the all-star will go to Ava Quilligan or Pat Collins, whoever wins the final. So if Cork are to win the final, it'll be a miraculous kind of recovery if he was to win an All-Star. And deserved as well, because of maybe the flack he was getting online at the start of the season and the way he's turned around his season to please the fans, the players, the mentors. Like, he's done a lot of good work, Pat Collins, and deserves a lot of credit.
Absolutely, yeah. No, he certainly does. There's absolutely no doubts about that. And yeah, like, in terms of like an all-star, like, I probably would have him ahead of Eibhear Quilligan right now. Like, I think, like, to be fair to Eibhear Quilligan, he made some phenomenal saves as well against Kilkenny. We'll get onto that. Didn't make a mistake for the goal, but I think overall he has had an outstanding year as well. But I probably would have Collins. But it could be one of them. Like, whoever has the better final probably does go on to win it, in fairness. Like, as for Limerick, I have seen a lot of people online saying, and you were kind of alluding to it there, like, it is the end of an era. Maybe there is going to be retirements. Obviously, when you look at the older guard, you've Dan Morrissey, Dermot Burns, Nicky Quaid, as you say, Graham Mulcahy maybe might retire. There may be, like, Keane Lynch obviously hasn't looked right all year. Age profile, he still has a number of years left in him, but he just hasn't looked right all year. Maybe some lads could go travelling. Will John Coyley stick it out as well? Like, it's going to be interesting. Like, you feel like winning the 5 in a row, like, that was the pinnacle, that was climbing the mountain. Whereas now they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and have to go again. So, what do you reckon? Like, could this be the end of an era for Limerick, or do you think they will still be there or thereabouts next year?
It almost felt like they were absolutely distraught on the final whistle because they stayed out on the pitch. Like I was staying around just watching the crowd go by it. I couldn't help noticing just the Limerick players just arms folded. They just couldn't believe what happened. We've lost here. The 5 in a row is gone. It's gone out of our grasp. But I just think, by the looks of the Limerick players' body language on the pitch afterwards, I just think they looked absolutely distraught. They looked out on their feet. They just looked shell-shocked more than anything that it's gone. The 5 in a row is gone. And like that was an opportunity. To be honest, maybe the Limerick players would have had this in their heads as well, to say that if they would have got the 5 in a row, they would have counted themselves as one of the best teams in hurling history, or possibly Gaelic Games history as well. To me, personally, I still think they are the greatest team of all time in hurling terms. I still think no team has ever matched them. Maybe there is arguments about the Kilkenny team around 06 to 09, but the competition that this Limerick team has faced over the last few years, they should be very proud of their efforts. Like in Munster, Clare have taken them the extra time a few years. Cork have given them a fair few games down through the years as well. Remember last year, Cork had about a 76% shot, or 77%, had still lost the game. Like Limerick still had to produce a top level performance to get out of there in the Gaelic grounds and get that win against Cork as well. Tipperary produced some good performances as well. Waterford came with late surges and Limerick still got over the line. Kilkenny scored 2:26 in the order of the final. Limerick still get over the line. So I think I watched a clip at the start of the week. It was involving another sport in soccer. Coincidentally, Eamon Dunphy was talking about it. I remember Bayern Munich beat Barcelona 7-0 in the Champions League semi-finals. It was almost like a kind of an end of an era there. And David Dunphy was just saying, I don't want to hear the talk about Bayern Munich and all that. I want to celebrate the stuff at Barcelona. I wouldn't go that far now. We obviously have to celebrate Cork because it was an incredible performance yesterday. But we also have to celebrate Limerick. The levels that they have gone up over the last few seasons, I don't think it could be matched in the next few years anyway. And then Jason Keelan was mentioning on Seamus' podcast earlier as well. Like, it's going to be very hard for a side to reach the levels of even attempting for a 5 in a row in the next few seasons. That's how good this Limerick team was. That's how big the levels were going up on in this Limerick team. And they deserve a lot of credit for that. And as for next season, it's hard to tell. Will the players want to leave for America? Will they want to go to Australia after putting in so much work? Would they just say, I've had enough here? John Coyley, I don't know. Like, they just looked absolutely distraught to me anyway yesterday. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope these players do stick around and try and get up to the levels that they were up on in the 4 in a row run. But yeah, I just think they looked out on their feet yesterday, and it's very, very hard to recover from a loss that they suffered yesterday just by the skin of their teeth as well.
Yeah, it is interesting, all right. Like, you do wonder, can John Coyley, if he does stick around himself and Paul Kinnerk and everything else, like, can they get can they get another year out of the more experienced players? And we saw that obviously with Dublin last year, and they ended up obviously sticking around for another year this year, and who knows, they might still be there next year. But it kind of is quite incredible. Like, obviously you are playing Clare in the All-Ireland final, and we'll get onto that, but like, as a Cork fan, like, to be fair, Gavin O'Reilly, who obviously follows the channel quite closely, like, he made a good comment last night, sort of saying, like, when Mayo beat Dublin in 2021, there was a huge amount of celebrations. Everybody was saying Mayo for Sam. Everyone was saying it was coming home and everything else. I don't think that expression was used, but I think everyone was saying Mayo for Sam and all the rest. And then obviously they lost the final, and it was a bit of an anticlimax. Like, is that maybe a bit of a worry from a Cork point of view? Like, you've beaten Limerick, you've dethroned them, you've stopped them or whatever, but it's not done. And Cork will be favourites in the All-Ireland final, I think, anyway, just based off of the fact that Clare didn't look great against Kilkenny, in my opinion. I know Clare beat Cork earlier in the year, but Cork had beaten Limerick twice. You know what I mean? And like, they beat them playing really, really well as well. So is that the only worry from a Cork perspective, is that, there's so much pressure nearly on Cork now with the fact that you beat Limerick? Like, if you were to beat Clare in the All-Ireland final, it'd be a huge opportunity missed.
I suppose that's where the psychological kind of things do come into the panel. Like, you have to look, it was a brilliant win over Limerick. Celebrate this for 1 or 2 nights now. I don't think Pat Ryan would be saying this to the players as well. but we have to park it middle of at most middle of this week. We have to park it and move on to the Clare game next, because that's the next big challenge. And like, even before the Limerick game, like, the performances against Offaly and Dublin weren't good enough from a Cork point of view, and Pat Ryan would have said that to the players. Like, even before the game yesterday, he was saying that we have our big players back, the Kieran Joyces, the Rob Downey's, the Owen Downey's, all back at the team, so no excuses. And I think he was referring to the performance levels that they did put up against Offaly and Dublin, and he was very disappointed, Pat Ryan, and these facial expressions and these post-match interviews would have told you that as well. So I think Pat Ryan is the kind of manager that will get the players grounded and get them ready for this game in 2 weeks' time against Clare. Because, as I said before, yes, Cork are going in as favourites, and yes, they've beaten Limerick twice this season, which is an absolutely incredible achievement. But our record against Clare of the last few years in league and championship has been dreadful, to put it mildly. Like, they lost in the league this season, they lost in the Munster Championship. Yes, the Sean O'Donoghue red card, but they still lost the game at that stage. Like, even last season, they lost to a last-minute Derby Ryan point when Cork didn't play well themselves. I know Pat Ryan would have said this as well. We had another level to go up on. We just didn't hit that level as well. A few seasons ago, they lost in Semple Stadium to Clare as well. So I can't actually remember off the top of my head. I think it was 2021 during COVID, the All-Ireland qualifier. That was the last time we beat Clare in league or championship. So we might have beat them in the league in 2022. I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head, but that is still a long, long time ago in championship terms from a Cork point of view. And even that day, Clare could have caught us. And we mentioned Pat Collins' game. Pat Collins saved a shot from Tony Kelly, I think, in the last minute of the game. And if that shot goes into the net, Clare would have won that game. And into the other quarterfinal, they go after that. So like, Cork were very, very close to losing that game, even though they won it as well. So we need to, brush up on that, go into the Clare game and keep the players grounded. I know the players will be excited and buzzing, and rightly so, after a brilliant win over Limerick. But it's the next challenge now, and I think Pat Ryan would be saying that to the players as well. And it's going to be crucial that he says to the players that, because I know Clare didn't perform well against Kilkenny, and we'll get onto it in a bit, but that is no reason why Clare can't put it up to Cork, because it's a different game now. Semi-finals are parked, move on to the final. Completely new game, 70 minutes. That's what's going to decide it. It's going to be the performance of the day. I'm sure the Cork players would know that themselves.
Yeah, Acer says here, Dicey's and Coppers was absolutely jammed with GA supporters on Saturday and Sunday. Do you know what? I was just thinking, like, how many Cork fans do you reckon didn't go into work Sunday and stayed out in Dublin on Sunday night, and didn't go into work Monday morning, I should say. Because I'd say, like, because it's quite the journey as well. I'd say the amount of them that did get the train home and probably fell asleep, like, some journey. And look, maybe Clare, I suppose Clare fans on the Saturday probably as well. And look, there was probably plenty of Limerick and Kilkenny fans still about as well. But how many Cork fans do you reckon didn't turn up for work this morning?
Hard to know, Aaron, exact number, because the place I was in last night, it was absolutely jam-packed with Cork supporters, and I don't think they were fit state to go home, to put it mildly. And it was an incredible atmosphere just around the city as well. And there was even Cork fans. I went to the bus from Drumcondra down to the place where I went to the nightclub, and there was even Cork fans getting on the bus there. So, like, even they weren't interested in going home. They were just interested in going to the bar. Like, it was just, and rightly so, it was an incredible win. And I don't think much Cork fans would have turned up to work. I heard some people were returned to work, and fair play to them. I definitely have to commend them for that, to return to work after a brilliant win like that yesterday. But I'd say very few that actually went to the match yesterday returned home on Sunday evening. I'd say at most, like myself, I'd say they returned to Cork probably this afternoon. Probably at most, but it's hard to know, Aaron. But rightly so, they should celebrate, because it was an incredible win.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Look, that's what it's all about. That's what sport's all about. You follow your team to the depths of despair and the joys and jubilation of obviously winning games as well. Acer is just to spoil the party a little bit. He says, or she says, whoever it is, says Clare will win the All-Ireland Hurling final. So there we go. That kind of burst a little bubble there. Kid Cuddy says similar with Kilkenny in 2019, Donegal in 2014, and Mayo in 2012, having big semi-wins but losing the final. It is very true. Like, there are a lot of there are a lot of examples of that. And I like, not to remind you, Matthew, but even when the Cork footballers beat Kerry in 2020 in the Munster Championship and then lost to Tipperary in the Munster final. So there are a lot of examples of it, in fairness. Azers also says here the Kilkenny second half performance was exactly like Waterford and Cork defeats. And that brings us on to the other game on Saturday then. Clare 24 points, Kilkenny 216. Definitely not the same game. In all honesty, the atmosphere wasn't as good. There wasn't as many there. I feel like both games were nearly polar opposites to each other, in all honesty. Like the Cork-Limerick game felt like an All-Ireland final. And this game, at times in the first half, nearly felt like a league game. It was very, very unusual. It burst into life, obviously, in the second half. And fair play to Clare, obviously 6 down, turned it around. Likes of Adam Hogan putting in a colossal performance. David McInerney was brilliant as well. And of course, Shane O'Donnell was outstanding as well. And Ryan Taylor, who came off the bench, had an absolute cracker of a game. But yeah, huge win for Clare, because similarly to Cork, Clare have broken their duck a little bit here. They've gotten over the Kilkenny voodoo.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think Brian Lohan would have cared about well, obviously he would have cared about the performance. Performance would have been, but again, in terms of the result of the performance would have been secondary, and Brian Lohan would have known that going into the game. Just to get over the Kilkenny voodoo would have been the main aim for Clare. Looking at half time, it was very, very bleak from a Clare point of view. They were 110 to 8 points down. I'm not sure to hear Anthony Daly at half time, Aaron. He was absolutely seething, and he was talking about, other than David McInerney and Dave Quilligan, these Clare players need to pull their socks up and get going in this game if they're going to win it. And to be honest, I think Brian Lohan nearly listened to Anthony Daly at halftime. He might have switched on the TV at halftime, because Clare doubled their shots. Like, I think they hit 13 shots in the first half. In the end, they had 37 shots. So that's about 24 shots in the second half. Like, that's double the number nearly. So the Clare deserve a lot of credit for increasing the tempo in more than anything against Kilkenny. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't a good performance from a Clare point of view, but there were aspects to it that I did like about Clare. For example, the shooting accuracy was very, very good. And even the last few seasons in the semi-final against Kilkenny, it was 38% in 2022. I think it was about 50% around that in 2023. This year was 64%. And look at Kilkenny on the other hand as well. It was 76% last year, 71% 2022. On Saturday, it was 47% shooting accuracy. And Kilkenny, like, that was really, really bad from a Kilkenny point of view. And even the miss that TJ got towards the end of it, it was just very un-TJ Reid-like, and it was very, very poor that he missed that kind of opportunity. Like, 12 wide wasn't really good enough to stay in the game either. And Kilkenny got their last score in the 58th minute. And that wasn't good enough from their point of view. And I'm sure Derek Ling would have been absolutely seething looking at that performance in the last few minutes. And it was like polar opposites in so many ways to the Cork and Limerick game, because Clare weren't that good, but they still got over the line. The final is a different game, but that's for discussion for another day. But like, Clare almost didn't win it in a way. Kilkenny lost it, because Kilkenny, the chances they were missing towards the end, and even the first half when they should have been over the hills and far away, they still missed a lot of opportunities. And I think Derek Ling would have been very, very disappointed with the performance. And looking at that as well, like, even Adrian Mullen wasn't in the game, wasn't allowed to be in the game. Owen Cody wasn't in the game much. TJ Reid missed a few sitters as well. Like, I think he converted only 60% of his frees, which was really, really poor from his standards. We know TJ's about 90%, 100% for his free taking, but to get 60% in an All-Ireland semi-final was really, really poor. I'm sure TJ Reid does know that himself. But look, it was a decent enough performance from Clare. They got over the line in the end, but they'll be thinking to themselves, the performance was secondary here. We still have over a week to prepare for the Cork game. And we're going into I think Brian Lohan would say this, these players, we're going into the game with everybody backing against us. Like, that's a dangerous place to be in from a Cork point of view. It's a great place for Clare, because no one's expecting anything from them. They can go into Croke Park and produce a brilliant performance, and it could get them the All-Ireland title, their first since 2013. So Clare, I think, would be relatively happy just to get to the final. But from a Kilkenny point of view, Aaron, it was really, really poor from them.
Yeah. Like, it is interesting in that final. Like, I do think Cork are going in as slight favourites, but I don't think they're heavy favourites or anything like that. I think if Limerick were going into the final playing Clare, I think you'd have Limerick as heavy favourites. You definitely would. Just given the fact that Limerick have beaten Clare twice already this year, and obviously numerous times in the seasons previous, they do seem to have Clare's number. I have Cork as slight favourites, but not as massive favourites. Obviously, Clare did beat them, and as you said, Clare do seem to have a great record against Cork. But yeah, like it was a weird game. Like Clare were very poor in the first half, and Kilkenny didn't punish them. It's so many big opportunities, so many big chances. To be fair, in fairness to Eibert Quilligan, he made a huge amount of saves. But that Kilkenny rootlessness and that rootlessness that we associate with Kilkenny, it just wasn't evident at all. And like we speak about end of eras and everything else, and Acers makes an interesting point here. Kilkenny will have up to 6 retirements now. Like you're looking at TJ, you're looking at Conor Fogarty, Paddy Deegan maybe as well. Like there's a huge amount of lads there who could potentially step away, and there are younger lads coming through, but are the younger lads of the quality of the current crop? I'm not entirely sure. So does feel like maybe the end of an era for Kilkenny.
Possibly so, but even looking at the younger players there, you would expect them to take the next step now. The likes of Billy Drennan, for example. Like I know TJ Reid is getting on a bit, and Billy Drennan would have been next heir to him in many ways. Adrian Mullen, like there is still you left in him. He's still a very good young player, and there still should be in the next few seasons. But even looking at Conor Fogarty and TJ Reid towards the end of it, it just looked like it might be the end of them. But look at TJ Reid, like at the same time, there is the mini battle between himself and Patrick Horgan to be the top point scorer in championship history. And Hoggy probably, well, to be honest, Hoggy will get 3 points in the final. There's no point denying that between frees or whatnot from a Cork point of view. So I think TJ still would be hungry to go for next season. And I said the GAR as well, that TJ wouldn't want to end his career on missing a simple free like he did against Clare on Saturday. Like that would just be a bad end to his career. It was quite a parallels in many ways to Henry Shefflin, the way he got sent off against Cork. He didn't want to end his career that way. He was a legendary player, but he didn't want to end it that way. So he went out on a high in 2014 and won the All-Ireland title. But to be honest, from a Kilkenny point of view, just something was not right in the camp. Like even looking at the Leinster Championship, against Galway, yes, they even look at their opponents in Leinster. Like Galway didn't do much this season. Dublin were very, very poor. The Leinster finally didn't put it up to them. Against Wexford, they actually, if you go by the scores for play, they would have lost that game. Against Carlow, they drew. Like drawing to Carlow this year at the Leinster Championship. Fair play to Carlow, but the Kilkenny should be beating them in any ordinary year. There was a good point being made about the Leinster Championship this season. It was good because of the unexpected results, but it wasn't good because of the quality. Like the Leinster Championship was very, very poor in quality this season, and it's kind of harsh to say that now because Kilkenny definitely shut up the doubters in many years. Obviously, two seasons in a row against Clare, they beat them, and there was no discussion about the Leinster Championship. But you can't deny this season when Galway were very, very poor, when Wexford were in transition, the next best team was Dublin, and like Kilkenny just weren't up to the level, unfortunately, for them, and that was the main thing about them. But at the same time, they did have a minor team that reached the All-Ireland final this year. There is a few under-20s coming through the ranks as well. I'm sure there are excellent players in Kilkenny. Like, their hurling is through their blood. I'm sure we won't see the last of them because Kilkenny, the saying goes, cats never die. So I'm sure Kilkenny will be back. There's no doubt about that. But they still have a serious bit of thinking to do. To score 210 from play wasn't really good enough as well in this game. They could have won it. Despite how bad they were, they could have won this game as well. So, look, I think Derry King will be absolutely devastated with this. And not to score the last 12 minutes or so, not acceptable in an All-Ireland semi-final, but just really, really poor from a Kilkenny point of view.
Yeah, very unusual. Like, usually Kilkenny are the side who come roaring back and they get late goals and everything else, but that just wasn't on the agenda and wasn't visible at all. A few comments here. Beast says Leinster wide open next year for hurling, and Asa says Offaly are going to tear up the Leinster Championship next year. Like as a Dublin fan, I'd love to see Dublin do it, but if Dublin aren't going to win it, I'd love to see Offaly do it. I can't see it happening now, to be honest, but sure, look, who knows? Eddie says here, Limerick were poor. Too many of their marquee players didn't show up. Limerick man here. Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. Likes of Keane Lynch, Tucker Road, Hegarty didn't have a great game as well. But there we go. I suppose if you have to predict it, if you have to call it right now, the All-Ireland final, in 2 weeks' time between Cork and Clare. I know obviously you're a Cork man, so maybe you're going to be biased, but if you had your unbiased hat on, would you still back Cork to win it, or what would you think?
To be honest, Aaron, like it's hard not to back this Cork team now because of the way they're performing. But there is the stuff that Gavin rightly said it on your show last night. The Mayo loss against Tyrone in 2021, and that's why I was mentioning Seamus and to Dan as well. I don't want it to be a Mayo situation. I really don't, because it's almost like we beat one of the greatest teams of all time, let's call it a spade, twice in one championship season. It's almost like we have to win it now. We have to win it now. But I'm sure Clare will really put it up to us. It's such a tough one to call. Come back to me in 2 weeks, Aaron. We'll see then. But for right now, I'd have to go for probably Cork because of the performance they gave. But I'm still very tentative about that because of the levels that Clare could go up on. I know they're a very, very good side. If Tony Kelly hits form, if Shane O'Donnell hits form, if Mark Rogers hits the pop that he usually does, we could be in trouble. So, and it's about matchups as well, which we will discuss obviously in 2 weeks' time, I'm sure. But yeah, I still age at the Cork right now, but obviously that could change.
Yeah, Beast says here, as a Clare man, we are better as underdogs. Yeah, look, it is a fair point of fairness. And something else worth mentioning as well, Ryan Taylor, actually, like his influence coming off the bench, and obviously him being back in the Clare team as well. And like that's the thing with Clare, is that when you look at their team, when you look at Mark Rogers, Shane O'Donnell, Tony Kelly, I feel like the second half was as close as what we've seen to all of them clicking at the same time. Like Tony Kelly started to stand up. Shane O'Donnell, I thought, had a great game. He was trying his best in the first half. Mark Rogers was anonymous in the first half, but really came alive in the second half. So you feel like if all of Clare's players can click, which we haven't seen too often. We saw Shane O'Donnell put in a colossal performance, but Tony Kelly will be injured or coming off the bench. You feel like if they're all at it, like that would, because that's the thing with Clare. I don't think we've necessarily seen the best from Clare so far this year.
That's the thing, and that's a dangerous game from a Cork point of view, because like Clare, this is a final, and it's a different set of scenarios. Whatever scoring efficiencies, whatever scores, whatever results that the team have had, this is a completely new game, and it's like in any sport, like a Rugby World Cup final, like a Champions League final, like a final race in the Formula One season. It all comes down to a crucial moment. And it's all about how well the players perform on the day. And Clare could easily switch it just like that coming into this game. And yes, I agree with you. Clare haven't performed well in this championship. Like, to be honest, I think in every game other than the Wexford game, they've been very, very below par, in my opinion, this season. But then again, it could click in the flick of a switch. And we'll have to see how it goes in 2 weeks' time. I'm definitely looking forward to this. I'm sure every neutral is looking forward to it. As a Cork man myself, I'm absolutely nervous about this game and whether we'll win our first All-Ireland in 19 years, but we'll have to see in 2 weeks' time. I'm definitely looking forward to watching this game. It should be a cracker.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll run through some of the games in the Camogie Championship, but before we do that, James says here, as a football man, the hurling is putting us to shame. 2 great games at the weekend. Yeah, absolutely. It is a fair point. And look, the football championship definitely is a lot to live up to. And yeah, both semi-finals this weekend. I'm hoping for 2 cracking games. But yeah, firstly, looking at the Dublin and Kilkenny game in the Camogie Championship, it was Dublin 113, Kilkenny 12 points. Who would have predicted this? Certainly not either one of us. Quite an incredible result, to be honest with you. Like I was half watching it, like in the background, and then the more the game went on, you were thinking, okay, I think Dublin have a serious chance here. Like we started really, really well, obviously getting the goal from Sinead Wilde. Kilkenny obviously came baback into it then and started to assert their dominance. But in fairness to Dublin, a massive win. Ash Lamar with 7 points as well. In fairness to Kilkenny, Aoife Prendergast with 5 points there. But what a result for Dublin.
It was unexpected and a brilliant result from a Dublin point of view, because this is a Dublin team that lost by 4 goals and 22 points to 5 points against Cork a few weeks ago. And that was the reason why we were both predicting that Kilkenny would win this game, even without Denise Scott on the team. I thought Kilkenny would have enough firepower in them. The likes of Aoife Prendergast, the likes of Aoife Doyle there, Steffi Fitzgerald. I thought they'd have enough despite being in transition. But Dublin started off like a house on fire, obviously, with the Sinead Boyle goal, and they never really let go of the lead, which was the weird thing. Kilkenny never got a grasp at the game, which was another weird thing in many ways, because like Dublin usually, if the underdog is going to beat someone in Camogie, it's usually through a late surge or a brilliant performance in the second half or whatever. But Dublin seemed to have this game under a grasp for such a long time in this one, so it was a bit weird looking at it that way. And yeah, it was an unexpected result because I was out and about and I was speaking to someone on Saturday morning, and then I went back to the house and I was looking at the scoreboard and I was thinking, is this an error? Dublin are really doing well in this one. Like, this was an incredible result and definitely had the Camogie Championship wide open. Like, I think this is Dublin's only second semi-final since 1990, which is absolutely incredible in its own right for the Dublin Camogie team. They deserve a lot of credit for that. And Aisling Maher is a brilliant scorer, obviously 7 points, 6 from frees. Aisling O'Neill definitely came onto the pitch and definitely calmed it down when it was coming towards the boiling point in the game. Aisling Gannon, Clare Gannon, like, they all had excellent performances from a Dublin point of view. I'd be kind of worried about them in 2-3 weeks' time, because the semi-final they'll play is against Cork again, who they lost to by canter a few weeks ago. Maybe the next result will be different, but we'll have to see if Dublin have learned from the pummeling experience that they experienced a few weeks ago. But as for Kilkenny, again, like the men's side, like, this is a serious damaging result for the Camogie team. Like, I know Peter Clear is in his first year in the Kilkenny Camogie job, but like, I know that he's gone out of the panel, and a few other players are out of the panel as well. Miriam Walsh wasn't starting in this game either, but you still have Aoife Prendergast, you still have Aoife Doyle, you still have Katie Power. There should have been enough quality on the pitch to beat Dublin. No disrespect now, so. Look, it was a poor result from a Kilkenny point of view, and I'm sure they'd be very disappointed. And the first year under Chap Clear's stewardship goes awry, and I'm sure they will be missing Brian Dowling, because Brian Dowling was a key influence in getting that Kilkenny Camogie team to perform well in the Camogie Championship over the last 2 seasons. But ever since he left last year, they haven't really got a bit of form going. Like, in the league, they struggled as well. So a long way to go for Kilkenny even next season.
Yeah, and like, what's even more mad to think as well is that Dublin are obviously out of hurling. They're out of the men's football. We'll get onto the ladies' football. They lost to Galway at the weekend. So quite incredibly, like, the furthest of any of the codes has been in Camogie for Dublin, which is, I honestly can't remember the last time that's happened, if it's ever happened. Usually looking at how strong the men's footballers are and how strong the ladies' footballers are. So quite incredible, and fair play to Dublin Camogie there for pulling off the win. And do you know what? Like, even with the men's footballers gone, the ladies' footballers gone, the men's hurlers gone, it might be a chance for the whole of the county to really back the Camogie team and really get behind them, with the fact that we don't have anyone else to get behind in the championship. So yeah, it could be interesting to see how the All Ireland semi-finals go. The other game was Galway 112, Waterford 1-9. Carrie Dolan with 4 points, Aoife Donoghue with 1-1, Niamh Mallon with 2 points as well for Galway. For Waterford, Niamh Rocket scored 3 points and Beth Carton scored 1-4. So Galway just about got over the line in the end. I think you were watching this game in Croke Park, were you?
I was, yeah. I was one of the few that went into the ground as well as Seamus to watch this game as well. And we both believed, myself and Seamus, I'm sure you did as well, that Waterford would cause a shock in this one and they would get over the line. We thought the shock would come in this quarter-final, but Galway definitely quashed those Waterford dreams with the goal for Aoife Donoghue, who was crucial at the early stage of the second half. Like, Niamh Mallon was a menace for Waterford early on in this game. Like, it was almost like Waterford needed to get someone concrete on her, because she was running the show up front. Aoife Donoghue was brilliant in midfield, obviously getting that goal. But then the disappointing thing from a Waterford point of view was Beck Harte scores that penalty, and you're thinking, okay, they're making a comeback here, but it never really materialised after that. Like, I know Brianna O'Regan scored a monster free from the halfway line, but like, it just never materialised into Waterford comeback, and Galway looked comfortable enough going into the last few minutes, and it was just disappointing from a Waterford point of view. I'm sure they would have been disappointed considering they got to the final last year. They seem to be making a few strides. They got a new manager in Jerry Wallace this year, but they just couldn't make that extra step this year. They got back 2 steps, which is really, really poor from them in general. But from Galway's point of view, it's a very good win. And I don't know how many semi-finals is that in a row for Cathal Murray's men, but or Clare's, should I say. But I'd say it's a load at this stage because Kilkenny haven't reached the semi-final now for 2 seasons in a row. Galway were the next best team to put it up to Cork. And to be fair, Galway Tipperary in a few weeks' time should be very, very interesting because Galway did lose to Tipperary in the league final. Karen Kennedy produced a very good performance in Croke Park that day. You just wonder, will Galway have the bit between their teeth to get up for that game and get a win on Tipperary? But to be honest, Aaron, that's a close one to call. It really is, because Tipperary, even though caught the van in the team most of the time, are performing well this season. And Galway seem to be doing well, even without the elder players. So, in fairness, both teams are going along nicely, and it's definitely a difficult one to call in a few weeks' time. But yeah, a decent enough game to go to, some decent skills in it. But just disappointing that it kind of ebbed out this game in many ways in the last few minutes.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you said, two cracking semi-finals to look forward to, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We'll have a look at the ladies' football action, starting with another big surprise. Dublin 112, Galway 3-7. For the second time in the space of a week, Galway beat Dublin against the odds. Nobody predicted it. I don't know which one is a bigger shock, to be honest with you, considering how good Dublin had looked in ladies football. They've been beating teams at a canter, really. And as we said, Galway had a bit of a mixed year up until now. But yeah, quite incredibly, Galway have gone and done it. Jesus, Galway are, I don't know, the Dublin hurlers knocked Galway out, and since then they've inflicted some amount of pain on us. It's like it's revenge or something. They might beat us in the Camogie All-Ireland final as well if we get there.
Just the trio that isn't needed from a Dublin point of view. But this was absolutely shocking in my eyes, because the men's football, it was all about Galway, could they get the injuries sorted and things like that, because we knew Galway had the players in men's football. But in ladies football, this was a Galway team that got relegated to Division 2. They beat Mayo in the Connacht final, yes, but they were very disappointing in Bishopstown against Cork. And okay, they beat Laois, but this is a Laois team that are going down to intermediate, let's be honest. So there wasn't much hope going into this game. And added to that, Dublin were whipping everybody in this championship. They absolutely hammered Meath. They hammered everybody in the group as well. They beat Mayo quite comprehensively in the group stage. They were very, very good against Kildare. They were good in the league campaign as well. Carlow seemed to be getting a bit of form, even though Carlow didn't start this game. I'm not sure what's the story there. Obviously, I didn't watch the game, but I seen at the starting 15, she was actually a late change to get replaced by someone else, which was very, very surprising. I don't know, was it an injury or something like that? If it was, that was a huge loss to Dublin, in fairness. Hannah Tyrrell only scored a point from play, which wasn't really good enough either. But their highest score from play Dublin was Nicole Owens with 2 points. And to be fair to Nicole, she has performed well in this championship, but that isn't really near good enough. And Galway stuck in there, their main counterparts. They stuck in this game, and then Aoife O'Rourke gets that chance in extra time and buries it into the back of the net. It was a brilliant win, and Nicola Ward was immense at centre back for Galway. Really, really good performance from her. Obviously, Olivia Dively, brilliant player for Kilkenny, burned down through the years, again produced a brilliant performance. And to be honest, Aaron, I did not see this coming whatsoever. And it's a credit to Galway, in fairness, for getting a win in this one. And who would have thought, actually, at the end of the league campaign, with Galway and Cork relegated to Division 2, that one of them will be the All-Ireland final come the end of the season?
Yeah, it's incredible, really. There does seem to be a lot of teams who do well in the league that seem to struggle in the championship, and teams who struggle in the league seem to do well in the championship. It seems to be a very common occurrence across the board in ladies football, men's football, and even in hurling as well, to a certain extent. I know Clare have obviously gone on to the All-Ireland final, but generally speaking, that is how it's seen over the last couple of years. And yeah, big surprise. Certainly didn't see it coming. I've never had an issue with Galway, really, to be honest with you. So I don't know if this is the universe trying to get me to dislike Galway or something like that. I don't really know what's going on, but yeah, quite unusual. But look, fair play to them. Huge win. And like the men, can they go on and win an All-Ireland now? It's going to be interesting to see. You mentioned Cork. They beat Waterford 117 to 2-4. Big win from a Cork perspective. Clodagh Carroll and Katie Murray got the goals for Waterford, whereas Emma Cleary stood out for Cork with 4 points. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was a very good performance for Cork, actually. And Cork were poor enough in the league this season, and in the Munster Championship, they seem to be building a bit of momentum. But ever since the group stage win over Galway, the confidence seems to be coming through the players. And I thought this would be a banana skin for Cork in many ways, because Waterford really put it up to Cork over the last few seasons. But Cork quashed those dreams really, really quickly. I know Waterford scored an early goal in the game through Katie Murray, and we were thinking, oh no, here we go again. Cork are going to mess up this game. But to be fair, Cork calmed down. And this is a thing that was really impressed with me watching Cork on Saturday. Usually last year, when something like that would have happened, like a Katie Murray goal early on, the team would panic a small bit, and they'd fumble a few balls. The errors would start to come. But to be fair to Shane Renane's team, they calmed down, they got on the ball, and they picked out the right space when they needed it. And in fairness, they had 10 different scores in this one, which was really, really impressive, because remember back in the first game of the league campaign, they had 1 score against Galway, and that was Katie Quirk. Like, they had 10 different scores in this one. So, to be fair to Shane Renane, he's definitely got a bit of confidence out of these young players, and he definitely built a side in this All-Ireland campaign. And yeah, it's a brilliant performance from Cork, in fairness. Obviously, Hannah Looney getting the goal. Laura O'Mahony was brilliant as well from centre forward with 3 points. Really impressed with Emer Kiley when she came on as well. Very good performance from her. Aoife Healy from wing back, I thought, was a pocket rocket in fairness. So I think Cork have a good few players coming through, and I think the Dublin Galway result might have boosted Cork a bit as well, because they know they've beaten Galway twice already this year. So they know they're within touching distance of an All-Ireland final. And I don't think anybody would have said that at the start of the season. It's an incredible story in many ways for Shane Renane's team, and congratulations to them. It's a brilliant win.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, huge win from a Cork perspective. Cork rivals, Kerry, they beat Meath 16 points to 8 points. Emma Deneen with 3 points. Louise Mahertig with 4 points. And Marion Farley stood out for Meath with 3 points. Comfortable enough win for Kerry in the end, an 8-point win.
Yeah, and it was shocking kind of this game, because half-time Meath were leading 5 points to 4, and then Vicky Ward, the story of the week in many ways, comes onto the pitch, and you're thinking, okay, Kerry are in massive trouble here. But Kerry outscored Meath. I've had the stats here. I think it is 12 points to 3 in the second half. Like, that is an incredible scoreline in many ways. And Kerry definitely went over Meath and rode over them in many ways. I think they got about 5-6 points in a row at one stage in the second half. So it was just a very, very good performance from the Kerry team, in fairness. And it's almost a situation for Kerry, with Dublin gone and with Meath gone, and you look at the sides left, and there's Armagh without Amy Mackin. You have Cork and Galway, who went down to Division 2. If Kerry don't win the All-Ireland this year, it's almost like, when is Louise Harte ever going to win an All-Ireland? So I think it's absolutely crucial for Kerry to go on and win this All-Ireland this year. There'll be a lot of pressure on them, but very good performance this one. A dominating display against the B team that got Vicky Ward back. And as for me, look, like it was a bit of a rough year for them. Obviously, Division 1, they stayed up, but in the Leinster Championship, they got hammered in many stages. I know they got that win over Tipperary, which was crucial getting them to the quarterfinals, but they never really got going in the second half, which was a concern, obviously, for Shane McCormack's team. But you have well done to Kerry for getting to the semi-finals, but there will be a lot of pressure on them to win the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I think on paper now they will be favourites, given the fact that obviously got to the final in the last 2 years. I think it is, obviously won the league 2 years ago as well. So yeah, huge pressure on Kerry's shoulders for them to go and end the famine in ladies football. The other game was Armagh 2-11, Mayo 11 points, Blocheen Mackin with 1-3, and Aoife McCoy scored 1-1. So I suppose no Amy Mackin, no problem for Armagh, at least for now anyway.
Yeah, I suppose so. Aoife McCoy is definitely a goal scorer in this team, and definitely took her goal well. I think Blocheen got 1-3 in this one, which was a brilliant game. Kind of a shame that this game was kind of after the Cork and Limerick game, because of the celebrations and all that going on, and it was just hard to watch it, hard to even get the score of it until basically when I was out of the nightclub. So yeah, it was just hard to get the result in many ways, but brilliant win for Armagh, to be fair to them. But Mayo just never really got going in this championship. Like in the college championship, they lost to Galway. One win in all competitions in the championship, and that was against Kildare team that will be in the relegation playoff next weekend. So Like, that's a really, really poor return from Liam McHale. It was a strange enough appointment at the start of the season. It definitely hasn't backed up anything from a Mayo point of view, which I think they'll be concerned about. But for Armagh, yes, they had a few rocky moments at the group stage, but to win this game by 6 points, definitely deserve a lot of credit for that. And Gregory McGonigal's team move on into the semi-finals, though, which it will be a tough game against Kerry, but they're well capable of beating them, obviously. They beat them in the league final. Can lightning strike twice?
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And yeah, it's kind of mad. Like, the ladies' football feels wide open. The All-Ireland final and hurling feels wide open. Men's football feels wide open. Camogie, even to a certain extent. Maybe Cork would be massive favourites there in Camogie, considering they won it last year. But even that feels a little bit wide open as well. So kind of incredible to see. But before we do finish up, I do want to touch on the story that broke, obviously, 1 or 2 hours before we went live. And I think a few commenters were alluding to it earlier. Mickey Harte has left his post as Derry manager, just 1 year in charge, less than a year since we got the announcement. I think when we got the announcement, I think it might have been in August or September of last year. So yeah, kind of incredible. Like, Derry won the league. Things were looking all rosy in the Garden. They got beat by Donegal. They got caught, and things have completely spiraled out of control since then. They managed to get that win versus Mayo, which was huge. They were then very poor against Kerry, no doubt about that. But overall, yeah, Mickey Harte, 1 year in charge, leaving. A lot of people saying they're not surprised. What do you think?
I wasn't surprised by the news either, Aaron. I know it was breaking news and all that. I was on the train home, but to be honest, looking at it, I wasn't sitting in my seat absolutely with a gasping mouth. I was like, yeah, I expect it, to be honest, because just the attitude of the Derry players, even in the Kerry game last week, it was almost like there was no urgency in their play. They didn't want to be in an All-Ireland semi-final, and that was probably an indication enough for me anyway that they wanted Mickey out. And I just feel like, yeah, it just was going to end in tears in many ways from a Derry point of view. But you just question the appointment of Mickey Harte. I know it started off well in the league. They had a good league campaign. They beat Dublin in the league final. But when you think about it last season, Kieran Mina didn't do necessarily a bad job last year, in my opinion. Got very close to Kerry, playing open, expansive football, and could have won that game very easily in the All-Ireland semi-final last season. So to show him the door last season was really, really, a strange decision for Derry, and just to bring in Mickey Harte like that. And Mickey Harte himself must be absolutely livid with his decision now, because, like, to leave Louth, and Louth got to an All-Ireland quarter-final, ended their year on a high, and for him to go to Derry, and he ended up being quite a mess, to be honest with you. I just think it was really, really badly handled from Mickey Harte's point of view and from Derry's point of view as well. It was always going to end in tears, the way Derry were playing as well. And yeah, it was just really, really poor. Like, the way, like, to be honest, I think Kevin Kennedy, your good friend from the GA Sports Track Rap, made a very good point as well. Yes, they lost to Donegal, they lost to Armagh, they lost to Galway, but they were playing a football that they were suited to, and they knew and loved. They were very good at it. But as soon as this changed style against Westmeath, it was almost like the excitement kind of died out of them, and they weren't enjoyable to watch anymore. They weren't necessarily getting results. Yes, they beat Mayo, but let's be honest, Aaron, it was a penalty shootout. So could you count that as a win? It was a draw. And then the Kerry game, again, like I said to the lads earlier as well, if you took away the scoreboard in that game, you wouldn't have known Derry were 3 or 4 points down. Like, it was just that kind of a game where Derry were just going through the motions to get to the final whistle here, and it was just no urgency about the play. And it was very, very poor from a Derry point of view. So to cut a long story short, Aaron, I wasn't shocked about the news whatsoever. I just think it was writing on the wall for a bit of a while now. And yeah, he's gone now, Mickey Harte. And the question is, who goes into Derry next? Will it be Joe Brennan, or will Lowe lock him in the basement? We'll have to see.
Yeah. I think I've seen a great one on Twitter as well. I think it might have been from RF, who said Loud have announced that Derry have got rid of Mickey Harte, or that Mickey Harte has stepped down, which was kind of funny in fairness. Gavin says, great win for the Derry Miners as well, 2 in a row, but who will they play for in senior in a few years? Yeah, absolutely, it's worth mentioning as well. Obviously, Derry winning the All-Ireland Minor Football Championship, and look, underage seems to be going well. Does seem to be a crop of players there, but a lot just depends on this current group, obviously, that they have, because Will McGuigan, McCaig, Rogers, Glass all be playing when those lads get to the senior level. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. So that is the interesting one. But for Mickey Harte, is this it? Is this the end? It's a very sad end, to be honest with you. I feel like when he left Tyrone, it was like, it felt a little bit disappointing, but I felt like he was leaving Tyrone in an okay place. And look, they went on to win the All-Ireland a year later. He came into Louth. He did a phenomenal job there. He was hugely respected. He felt like if he had left Louth, he would have got a huge amount of plaudits from everyone. Whereas now it's like, it's very hard to know where he goes from here. Like, I don't think anyone else in Ulster is going to take him. The only thing I can think of, and this is a bit of a left field one, could Mickey Harte end up going to Kildare?
If he goes to Kildare, Aaron, like, to be honest, that tells you more about the Kildare County Board than it does Mickey Harte or anybody else, because Kildare, obviously we're kind of going off topic here, but the Kildare, what they need is an inside manager that knows Kildare football inside and out. Like, what's wrong with Brian Flanagan? What's wrong with anybody in the Kildare underage setup, which they have excelled in over the last few seasons? What's wrong with Davy Burke if he is available, if he does leave Roscommon? Like, I think Kildare need to go with someone like that. They tried with the legendary player, legendary manager, and it ended up going flat in their face. Remember when they appointed Jack O'Connor and they thought they'd win a Leinster title, and they ended up playing football against Dublin that was just poor on the eye, and Jack O'Connor was just saying, we're happy to play this style of football. It was just a sense of, like, what was the point of all that about? So I just think if Mickey Harte goes to Kildare, I think they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, to be honest, Aaron. I just think it wouldn't be a good fit at all. I think one county that actually might be, maybe a bit of left field one in Ulster, Antrim. I don't know, but we'll have to see. But look,
is Andy McEntee, is he gone as well? Oh yeah, he is gone. No, he's not.
He's not. No. But it was just a suggestion. Would he go to Antrim once Andy ends?
Yeah. It could be one. I don't think him going to Kildare would be the worst appointment, to be honest with you. I actually think he could do a good job there. Like, I think with Kildare, they've had a lot of inside men in it, like, and it hasn't worked. Do you know what I mean? I think Jack O'Connor done a very good job when he was in charge of Kildare, getting them up to Division 1, sort of laid the foundations really for Glenn Ryan to come in on. I don't think it would be a bad appointment necessarily. But would Mickey Harte do that? I don't think so. I think he went to Louth, and that was different, and everything else. But
guess it's back to me. Yeah. Just to carry it on, I suppose. Maybe he could go to Antrim, but to be honest, when it's all said and done, I think Mickey Harte would be just better off just ending his career now. Just end up as a legend. I think maybe what would have been a perfect send-off for a great manager like Mickey Harte would be to guide Louth what Joe Brennan did this year, to guide them to an All-Ireland quarter-final, to guide them to All-Ireland quarter-final weekend in Croke Park. I think that would have been the icing on top of the cake for Mickey Harte as a manager. But the fact he went to Derry afterwards, like, it was always going to be a risky appointment, but it ended up being an absolute disaster, in my opinion. And it was just like, why did you do it? Simply. And for now anyway, I think Mickey should probably just hang up the whistle, hang up the management gear, because Brian Cody made the right decision with Kilkenny. Just hang it up, when when you're out on top, or if things are going down a barrel, if they're getting worse. So I think Mickey should probably end his career as of now, I'd say.
Yeah, because he's like, the reason why he went to Derry was to win an All-Ireland. If he goes to Kildare, you're not winning All-Ireland there, are you? Do you know what I mean? You're probably not even going to win Leinster as well. So yeah, it's it probably does feel like it is the end of the road. Gavin says that Donegal game just changed everything. Glen winning the club and Derry the league. You would have thought it would be a great year for Derry. Kieran says time for Joe Brawley to step up to the mark as Derry manager after all his comments on Mickey Harte. Look, I mean, I think a lot of things did go wrong for Mickey Harte. There's no doubt about that. But I do think Joe Brawley is really, he has really stuck the foot in, and there's probably no surprises there because that always seems to be what he does. Kieran also says here, unfortunately for Mickey, I reckon it's the end for him. Nowhere else for him to go. Plus, really, would he want to go anywhere else now? John also says, delight for Mickey Harte. He was never welcomed, accepted, or respected in Derry. The abuse he got from Joe Brawley throughout the season was disgraceful. So there we go. Yeah, plenty of comments on that. Where did Derry go? Who did they appoint? Could it be Malachy O'Rourke? Maybe. It's hard to really know like who they go for.
I think a very good appointment, an inside appointment from a Derry point of view, would be Damien McIlernum, if I pronounce that correctly, the minor football manager. He won 2 All-Ireland minors in a row. Maybe it doesn't underage doesn't translate to senior, but at the same time it did for Galway with Power Joyce coming up through the ranks. It has done for other counties as well. Kildare should probably follow the same suit with Brian Flanagan as well. Maybe it would be worth a try to get Damien McIlernum in, and maybe they bid in that successful minor team, the likes of Dylan Rocks, the likes of James Sargent, Gerard Dillon. Like maybe they can come into the team at relative ease. So maybe that could be an appointment that they could look towards. I think the box office appointment would be Brodie, but would Brodie be brave enough to do it? No, I don't think so. No, he doesn't stick his words where his mouth is, to be honest with you. For all his Twitter comments, he just doesn't go and manage the team. But look, that's Joe Brodie for you. I think Malachy O'Rourke would be a decent enough appointment. Like, he's done very well at Glen, to be fair to him. Like, if Kieran Mina was welcomed back with open arms, maybe. But like, he's doing an excellent job at Down as probably in the backroom team there. So would he leave that post? Probably not, the way Down are going at the moment. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think Malachy O'Rourke or McIlernum are probably the front runners in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose before we finish up then, there's no point asking you moment of the week. I think that's a silly question really. But player of the week or any other moments of the week other than Cork doing the unthinkable?
Yeah, moment of the week. I'd have to say there's a club down south called Goleen. They won the Junior B Championship. Look, I'm missing Harte. It has to be Cork beating Limerick in the semi-final. And just after all, playing around Croke Park was just a magical moment, and definitely want to savour. But obviously, if we do win it at the end, player of the week, in my opinion, would be. I'd probably have to go for Ryan Hayes, don't I? Like, excellent performance with 1-4. Like, the guy has definitely transformed this season in the Cork shirt. And definitely one of the performers that has stepped up in a Cork jersey this season.
Yeah, I think for player of the week for me, I think Brian Hayes was absolutely colossal. I don't think you can look past him. Declan Dalton, very, very good. Adam Hogan was brilliant for Clare in the second half as well. And moments of the week, like, Cork obviously beating Limerick, Dublin beating Kilkenny and Camogie as well. Obviously, the Galway ladies beating Dublin. But another moment, actually, and I probably should have alluded to it earlier, but obviously all the tributes and everything else that went towards John O'Mahony, obviously following his passing, obviously at the weekend. Obviously, won 2 All-Irelands with Galway, won that Connacht title with Leitrim as well, which is legendary. Obviously, managed Mayo over 2 spells, won a couple of Connacht titles as well. So, plenty of tributes and everything else that went out towards him, I thought were very, very good to see as well. And yeah, I suppose that pretty much wraps it all up. I suppose maybe just to allude to that a little bit, Gavin says sad moments was John O'Mahony passing, just a legend in Connacht in general. Like, his best days or his days in management were probably maybe like before us really, when he won. I was very young then. You were obviously very young when he won All-Irelands with Galway. Obviously managed Mayo a little bit later on. But yeah, very, very sad news obviously to see.
It is, and I suppose like the best achievement, in my opinion, that John O'Mahony ever achieved was winning the Connacht title with Leitrim in 1994. Like, to do that with such a small county, to give the county so much hope and give them stars that Leitrim fans would aspire to. I think Declan Darcy was the guy that was the captain of that team and was an exceptional talent in that Leitrim team. And for John O'Mahony to get all them players together and win a Connacht title was a magical moment. Obviously, to win 2 All-Ireland titles with Galway as well, and then Connacht titles with Mayo in 2009. It was just a shame that he ended his career, his long, brilliant career, in that Mayo, with Mayo obviously losing to Longford in the 2010 qualifiers, because he was an exceptional manager for Mayo, winning that Connacht title for them in 2009. I remember that. Obviously, they beat Galway in the final. We're very close against Meath in the quarter final as well, so we're definitely good. And gave Aidan O'Shea his debut. And Aidan O'Shea definitely thanked him on Instagram as well, if you've seen his story from earlier. And I've seen a podcast on the train home, actually, from, I don't know, do you know Paul Shaughnessy from the Maroon and White pod? He actually put up a post that John O'Mahony was talking about the Connacht final a few weeks ago. And you can actually see from that video that John was seriously looking forward to that Connacht final, and he was in good spirits. And it's so sad that a few weeks later he's gone. And it's just so unfortunate. And obviously condolences to the O'Mahony family, condolences to Galway J, Leitrim J, and of course Mayo J. Yes, J. Rev on him. John O'Mahony, absolute legend.
Absolutely. Well, look, I think that very much wraps it up. Cheers anyone who tuned in. If you could hit the like button and subscribe, that would be very much appreciated. And let us know, obviously, your comments, your thoughts on all of the games and everything else. And until the next one, we will catch you all then.